Sapphire Connect, thank you very much for this opportunity. I just want to shift this topic a little bit. Inclusion across employee lifecycle. Most of us are from HR and L&D here, and I know inclusion can be a burden on HR and HR only, right? Give me a yes if you think so. Yeah. So let's shift this, and we will talk about inclusion as a people competence, okay? So I'll start with a little story of my life. My first encounter with exclusion, not inclusion, right? So it's year 2005, and I joined my first organization. It is a workshop, okay? So hustling workshop, a lot of cars coming in and out. You could smell the grease and the oil and, a lot of cuss words going around. The only thing is that I was protected from all this. Why? Because there were a couple of my coworkers who were very protective of me, and I was always in a cabin working on this. You had those big computer screens, so I would enter the data and do my things. Time went by, 3 months, I lived like this. They wouldn't let me step out. So 3 months, fast forward, one day I walk in and I see a lady sitting in my chair. Yeah? I ask myself, who is she? She's my manager who just come back from maternity leave, and she was the customer care manager of their dealership. So she saw me, greeted me, sat me down, and she asked me a few questions. I should have known the answer, right? I was working there, but I didn't know. Most of it I didn't know, and I started crying. Now she consoled me, and she gave me a task. She said, Dupinder, you are going to learn one new thing every day for the next 2 weeks. Yeah? So she takes me with her, puts me out, in the front of the cabin where all the cars are parked, all the customers are there, and she leaves me there. Yeah? Now, I have always been excluded from this. Now, I am expected to include myself. How did I do that? Yeah? A few days went, I couldn't achieve anything. And one day, when she pushed me enough, I saw a parked car, and I went there. I had a blue book, and I started marking the scratches and the dents and everything. That was the journey. I started there, okay? Now, the question is, why did she do that? Okay? Why did she think that she has to push me like this? She was my leader, yeah? I am here because of her. So she showed me how taking risks is important in growing, in your life. So as human beings, we are threatened by the things that we don't understand, or we are conditioned not to understand or to be afraid of, right? If someone hits me with a ball, what am I going to do? I'm going to duck, right? Yeah? Someone has to tell me, Dupinder, stand here and catch it. That is how you become a sports person, yeah? So inclusion is like that. You are asking people to go against their instincts, yeah? So as leaders, we have to do a better job at it, rather than just telling them, teaching them, making them watch those videos and say, hey, be inclusive now. Have I been grown into that environment is the question. So we will answer that question. Why did she do that? What happened after that? Yeah, I'll give you some examples. See, I cannot give speeches. Yeah, I'm, to be honest, every 2 minutes or 3 minutes, I crack a joke. Can't be serious, yeah? But anyway, now let's be serious. Let's talk about retention. We know that retention is directly tied to diversity inclusion, right? You be inclusive, you improve diversity, there'll be retention, yeah? So I was reading about this new phenomenon, loud quitting. You've heard it, right? Yeah? Wherein the survey said that every 1 out of 5 employees is disengaged at work and does not feel, scared of showing it. So what happens? They influence others when they walk out, yeah, in the market. So they are taking the reputation of your organization down, yeah? So other thing, diversity and inclusion post-pandemic has been a big thing. We have been trying to retain people. But in 2022, attrition in India overall was 6%. In 2020. In 2022, we are sitting at 20%. Yeah? So what changed? What did we do? Yeah? And, what we are doing is we are doing a meta-analysis of retention. Someone was talking about it, data-driven change management. Initiating a change using the data, developing hypotheses is very important. But are we looking at empirical evidences? Yeah? Like Mr. Arun said, incomprehensible. The problems that we are facing today can be comprehended using the old methods. Yeah? So there are a lot of questions that I feel that as leaders we need to now contemplate and try to answer together as a group. Yeah? Okay, so there was a mentor of mine who said this to me once. Okay, now this might go against your business goals, but I feel value in it. He said, if you're leaving this organization, to do bigger and better things, I will be happy because I've enabled your wings. Yeah, that gives me satisfaction. I have succeeded as a leader. But if you're leaving my organization just because you're unhappy, and you're going to do the exact same thing, then I am sad because I have not been a great leader. So the employer-employee relationship is not about the years that are invested by an employee or an employer. It is about the value that both the parties have gained during the relationship that they have shared as employee and the employer. Yeah? So I think we have to look at the retention in a different way, through a different lens. If we start doing that, we will automatically program ourselves to add the value that our employees are longing for. Yeah? And we were talking about Gen Alpha being a part of the workforce in 2030. Gen Alpha is high on values. If you have kids, you know that already. Yeah? I have a younger brother. He is Gen Alpha. And trust me, very hard to deal with. Very, very hard to deal with. Very rational, very logical. Everything that we do has to have a value in it. So why is it not true to the employees who are going to hit our doors in 2030? And there was another interesting study. It said that among all the generation, millennials lie the most. So you give them a survey, that retention survey, and you ask them to fill it. You think they are telling you the truth? Question. So that is why we had the need of empirical evidences, not just the meta-analysis. Yeah? And I had a big fight with my supervisor about it because she was forcing me to do a meta-analysis, and I said, I'm going to do an empirical study no matter what. So, okay, so there are two sides of each coin. Now let's look at inclusion as a competence. As we already spoke about, that inclusion is an instinct. Yeah, you have to. Exclusion is an instinct, so you have to reverse it, develop it. So there are two sides of it. One, what organizations are doing. You are revisiting the policies, rewriting the policies, doing everything in your power to make sure that people are psychologically safe in your organization. Yeah. Now look at the people side of it. So when I say people side of it, inclusion is not a policy. It cannot be a compliance. As long as we ask people to do things because they have to, it would not yield any results, at least not the results that we want. Inclusion is a skill. Inclusion is a behavior. Yeah? One has to be inclusive in every aspect of life, because if you want to learn something as a skill, you have to do it 24/7. Like, it was a line in Shiv Khera's, one of the Shiv Khera books, that what you do between 9 to 5 is what exactly you do between 5 to 9. So, going back to pandemic days, I'll give you my observation. So, in the balcony of my colony, I used to see ladies around 12:30, 1 in the afternoon. They are done with the chores and errands and everything. Before the pandemic, of course. They would talk, gossip, share recipes, tips, tricks, stories. Everything stopped in pandemic. Everything. There was no one. These are dark balconies now. And I asked myself why. And now if you come to think about it, there was a rise in expectations. Everybody was home. Child care was 24/7 job. Cooking was 24/7 job. And I'm not saying that, you should pity women and all that. No. Men also paid the price. A lot of people lost their jobs. But let's talk about quickly inclusion being a word problem. So I was delivering this Bosch session 2 years ago. Yeah. And after the session, so we spoke about a lot of behaviors, gave a lot of examples. And after the session, the group of women walked up to me and said that, Dupinder, we didn't know these behaviors are unacceptable. These have happened to us. I said, what did you do about it? They said, we didn't do anything about it because we thought it is the norm. And I said, you should think about it now. What do you want to do? They said, we want to report it. So I was on the committee. We had this conversation with the respondents then per the policy. So one of the respondents, must be 25 years, right, a male, said something really amazing. Yeah? Said, you know, if laughing at a joke is unacceptable, then you should ban joking in the policy. Or you should create separate team for women. I'm not talking about 1995 people. I am talking about 2021. A person sitting in a metropolitan city, in a posh area, in a high-rise office, is telling me, and that too in IT industry, create a separate team for women. Now the question is, where does it come from? And that brings me to the next point. Now, if we had let this person go, this problem wouldn't have been solved. This would have been transferred to another organization. So whether it is, you know, HCL or IBM or Foundever or any other organization, if one person is leaving with this attitude and going to another organization, what we are doing is we are multiplying this problem. We are elevating it. We are not eradicating it. Yeah? So this is another thing that I want you guys to think about now. Business goals is good. Everything is good, but it is a human rights issue. Inclusion should be treated like that. It should not be an organization problem, a company problem, a business problem, a retention problem. It should be a behavior that has to be embedded in the culture by role modeling. And I'm not talking about the leaders. We put enough pressure on leaders. It should be embodied by everyone. Yeah? Okay, so I have 100 examples of the course that teach you diversity and inclusion. Trust me, that is knowledge, not skill. Yeah, if I give you a challenge now, go take a course. After 10 days, let's meet and talk about what behavior changed in you. Trust me, the answers are not going to come out very well. Because those are knowledge, not behaviors. Now, let's talk about, you know, the people side of it. When I say the people side of it, you know, shifting a culture, of course, is a top-down activity, and we understand that. And we put a lot of pressure on C-suite and leadership in saying, okay, you should embody inclusion, you should talk about it, you should do this and do that. You know, human mind is really amazing, fascinating thing. And we have not fully understood it, by the way. But what we have understood is that perspectives and beliefs are mostly formed in the formative years of life. Okay? Here is a study that proved that when the environment is changed drastically, a person's mind is continuing really hard to associate new information. Yeah? Now, if you provide positive experience with that information, the positive association is going to take place. What I mean is that when a person joins the organization, and that's when we come to employee lifecycle, is the right time to address it. Okay? And not just through the trainings. We are talking about behaviors. We are talking about inclusive language. We are talking about role modeling. We are talking about SPOCs, focus group. We are talking about, you know, breathing inclusion, basically. You know, like you breathe inclusion. Use the right pronouns. Use the right para-language. That is also another thing, okay? And I'm not, you know, pinpointing any specific community, but paralanguage is a very strong problem here. Because what we say and what we do and how we behave and the gestures and everything sometimes can be very, you know, derogatory or very contradicting to what we are trying to, the message that we are trying to send here. So another thing is that we need to address here is that when we talk about including one person or one community, it is deemed as exclusion of another. It's a basic notion. Again, it is a human tendency to think like that. I'll tell you, in Foundever, we do a lot of, so we have a community called Women at Foundever, and I am a DEI advocate. So we do a lot of sessions, a lot of activities there. So a couple of men walk up to me and they say, Dupinder, what are we doing for men? I said, learnings are open for everyone. Who is telling you not to join them? But it says women at Foundever. And that is when we started thinking, why are we calling it women at Foundever? It should not be women at Foundever. It should be everyone at Foundever. And we decided to change it. Yeah? Then we started to invest in allyship. We started to disrupt everything, question every belief that we had. And trust me, the response, it's not perfect, but it is very positive and progressive. And that's what we want. Perfection doesn't exist. Progression is the reality here. All right, so I will now conclude, and I invite you to think about a few things. Yeah? Whenever we are, trying to build inclusive culture, psychological safety, we have to understand the psychology of inclusion. We have to understand, who these people are. There is a lot of misunderstanding going around about generations as well. The Gen Z is like that, Gen X is like that, Gen Y is like that. I'm not saying that it is not true. It is partially true. What we forget is personality. So there are two kinds of diversity. Diversity which is visible, gender, yeah? Socioeconomic, because the way you dress and everything, it tells you. Cultural, this invisible diversity. Personality, thought diversity, yeah? So diversity, we are so hyper-focused, hiring more women, and we label them diversity candidates. Women, men, different genders. Let's fix our language first, yeah? And what I want you to think about is whatever information we are disseminating, whatever programs we are running, whatever trainings we are providing, who is your audience? Because what you're teaching your associates may not work for your leaders. And sometimes we entrust leaders with all these things, thinking that they are leaders so they know it. It's like I'm giving you 10,000 rupees and saying, please be mindful, spend it wisely. Wise to me is different, wise to you is different, wise to you is entirely different. So we have our own influences, interpretations playing a very vital role in it. Yeah? So we send the message the way we want. And by the time it reaches, it is completely diluted. Yeah? It's like what you call, I don't have an example for that. Yeah? So what are the diversity variables here? Because even in learning, there is diversity. People learn in different diverse ways. They have different mental, physical abilities. Yeah? So you have to think about it. You have to analyze it. Empirical evidence is, again, I'm emphasizing on that. Are you employees aware of the organization's vision about the EI? Motivation theory. Motivation works in different ways. I might be motivated by how it impacts me, what I get out of it. I might be motivated by how it impacts other people around me, yeah? Or my image with those people. Or I might be motivated by a bigger picture. How am I contributing to the bigger picture? So you look at the motivation of people. What do we as people gain by being inclusive? Not organization. Yeah, 45% target, 50% target. Are you people understanding the target? Are they relating to the target? Yeah? Your associates, your managers, and everyone. How clear is the message? Even your temp staff, cafeteria guys, we need to think about that. How clear is the message? How are we clarifying behaviors aligned with the message? How are we quantifying those behaviors that are aligned with the message? Yeah? Are we providing a test environment for the learners to apply their knowledge? This is very important, trust me. I have done a beta study, and the results are phenomenal, and I'm looking to actually publish it. Do we have a plan to reinforce behavior sustainably? Someone said that, right? Top-down is not always sustainable. So conditioning is a devil. It's a devil, okay? People say, I changed. Let's talk about smoking for a minute. If someone has been smoking for 20 years and quit for 6 months, how likely are they going to relapse? Yeah? Similarly, I've heard gender stereotypes and cultural stereotypes all my life. That's all I've heard for 30 years in my life. I have changed. What if I flip back? Yeah? What if the conditioning demon comes back? So you have to reinforce the behaviors very sustainably. We have to make sure people hear it, feel it, see it. It's tangible, untangible, every way. Are you people leaving for the right reasons? Are you just looking at the data, or are you looking at the empirical evidences, or just relying on the BI? So these are some questions I want you guys to take away today. Sorry, I want everyone to take away today. I'm also working on my inclusive language. I apologize. I want everyone to take away. So going back to my story, my manager pushed me. It was not the best solution, okay? But she pushed me. She empowered me to confront my demons. She showed me what steps I have to take, if I expect to be included. And that is another thing. You want to include someone. Are you telling them what are the steps they have to take towards it? If I take a step towards you and you step back, that is null and void now. So here you also have to make sure that you at least come a little forward, take a little risk, open up, right? Don't be afraid of being vulnerable. And, back then, I had a notion that, and I was really brought in a traditional family where you only become a doctor or a nurse or a teacher. So I had a notion that being one of the two women in that workshop full of men is not a best idea. It is a temp job. So I was just hiding. Yeah? And people are ready to take advantage of my vulnerability there. I'm not saying it is a safe place all the time, but it was not entirely true. Now, mind you, I was only 15 years old. That was the catch. And someone did it for her, maybe, so she saw it through me. She saw what I needed, and she gave me that push multiple times. So diversity is actually the reality of nature. We've changed it. Yeah? And inclusion is our goal. Equity is the tool that we use, and belongingness is the result of everything that we do. Yeah? So we need to watch ourselves, scrutinize ourselves first as leaders, as people, and, model the behaviors we want those around us to adopt. I keep telling my brother, a pink bottle is not a girl's bottle. Take a pink bottle to school. And he's like, Didi, I don't want to do that. He says it cutely in Punjabi, of course, but, Didi, I don't want to do that. But I tell him, pink is a color. It's a color. That's it. Blue is a color. And, so everyone has to do this bit every day in every way. And, the day we start breathing inclusion is the day we'll stop talking about it, fighting about it, and worrying about it.